Good morning, all northern peripheral persons. Welcome to this international networking seminar here to University of Lapland, Rovaniemi. This seminar is jointly organized by two Northern Periphery and Arctic program projects just funded this summer. I represent project called W Power, which is about empowering women entrepreneurship, and Outi represent ARCTISEN project.
Yeah, it's called Culturally Sensitive Tourism in the Arctic, and you will hear a little bit more about our project in half an hour, I would say, or something like that. From my behalf, I welcome you all to join this seminar, and I'm really glad to see you all here.
We hope you all to sign the participant list is the key for the lunch. And if you want to join the W Power project mailing list, please tick the box. And if you want to deny the use of photographs taken of you, please tick the box also. There might be some photographs taken from the auditorium. The seminar opening is conducted by Mr. Heikki Autto, a liaison manager of University of Lapland. Welcome, Heikki.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to welcome you all to the University of Lapland and to the Arctic Circle, to the city of Rovaniemi. As introduced, I work as the liaison manager for the University of Lapland, but I'm also the chairman of the city council for the city of Rovaniemi. So it's a great pleasure to welcome also our international guests today, and nice to see you all here. May I ask you, for whom this might be the first time this far north here at the Arctic Circle? Is this first time for somebody? Okay, very good. So you are most welcome to experience the European Arctic, and for all of us it's quite important to understand why the importance of Arctic is growing so much in the future. And in this sense, I also mean the whole of Finland being an Arctic nation. We are, for example, the only country in the world where all the harbors freeze in the winter. We are the only Arctic country in that sense. So this really struck me one time when I was in the best place in the world. What's the best place in the world? It's the grandmother's house, of course. So this was at the grandmother's house at the attic, where they store, for example, the old school books. And there's a cardboard box full of old school books from the 1960s. And there's a mathematics book where you have this task for the student that could it be possible that all the people of the world could stand on the ice on the Lake Inari. Lake Inari is the biggest lake in Finland. Finland has hundreds of thousands of lakes, but Lake Inari is the biggest, and it's a huge lake. It's about 1,000 square kilometers in size. And a small student must have been wondering that, yeah, it's a huge lake, but there must be a lot of people in the world. Could it be really possible that all the people could stand there on the ice on Lake Inari? And when you do the math, that 1,000 square kilometers is 1 billion square meters. And at that time, in the 1960s, the United Nations estimated that there is about 3 billion people in the world. So yes, we could have easily all fit to stand there on the ice on the Lake Inari. But nowadays, United Nations estimates that there is already a lot more than 7 billion of us. In the next decade, there will be more than 8 billion of us. And by the year 2040, there will be 9 billion of us. It would be really crowded there on the Lake Inari nowadays, really. And this is a huge change that we haven't really here experienced. Actually, quite the contrary. The population in Lapland has decreased, but many places in the world have really become crowded. And we have the things that there is a great lack of in many places in the world. We have the cleanest air in the world, pure soil, fresh water, plenty of fresh water, plenty of space, but also all the natural resources, the forests, the minerals, everything. And this might be one of the things that will draw world's attention to the Arctic in the future. And this will mean, for example, growth in tourism in the future, also exploitation of the natural resources. And when these things come about, we really need to make sure that the development is sustainable. But if in some place in the world we already know how to make development sustainable, it's the Arctic region. We really have found the balance with the planet here. You know, we are so far north that at this latitude in Greenland, they have 2 kilometers of ice covering the ground. We are really far north. And in these harsh conditions, we have created a society that I could almost claim that match the criteria of sustainable development. So this know-how that we have here in the north will actually be a big factor in solving these issues in the whole world, I believe. So I really hope that it's not only the natural resources that draw the attention of the world towards the north, but it's the know-how that we have here to solve the problems in the world. And how we have managed to have this know-how. I believe this seminar today is really about it when we talk about, for example, women entrepreneurship, because both of these things are the key factors why, as last year Finland celebrated the 100 years anniversary as an independent nation, and Finland was widely celebrated one of the most successful nations in the world. And the key factors are the empowerment of women in the Finnish society and also entrepreneurship. And when you combine these two things, you can really make wonders. So these two themes for today's seminar are really important issues, not only for the regions where we all come from, not only for the sparsely populated areas, but for the world. So with these words, I wish all the best for the seminar and for the projects, and welcome you all to Rovaniemi, and hope you have a successful day today. All the best.
Thank you, Heikki, for the inspiring words. We forgot to mention that we are streaming it online, this seminar. So for those ones who are following us online, then if you want to comment, you can put a comment to a chat. We don't have like open microphone for for everyone, but if there's someone who wants to ask something, then just put your comment to a chat. But now we move on to presentation about the women we power, W power, and Helena, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot. If you don't mind, I will stay this way so I can see most of the slides. Okay, thank you. So, my name is Helena Puhakka-Tarvainen. I come from eastern part of Finland, Joensuu, near the Russian border. I represent Karelia University of Applied Sciences. It's a applied small university in the easternmost Finland and coordinator of this W Power project. We have been active counterpart of in this Northern Periphery and Arctic program since mid-90s, in especially energy sector, but also by empowering entrepreneurship with different projects. And also our region is active on empowering women entrepreneurship. Our partners in this project include Lapland University of Applied Sciences, who have wonderfully arranged this week here. We are very happy to be visiting many places, seeing many wonderful women entrepreneurs. For example, one of my great idols, Anu Pentik, yesterday in Posio. That was amazing to meet her personally and see how the beautiful ceramics is done. Altogether, we have partners from six countries: Jokkmokk, Sweden, west coast of Ireland, Scotland and Shetland, and Iceland. Our project has just started in September, as well as ARCTISEN led by Outi. Our project is about empowering women entrepreneurs, and the context is in sparsely populated communities, Arctic North. We are aiming for equal growth and increase in the contribution of women to regional economy, and especially in the context of the Northern and Arctic communities. With a special emphasis we have here in the Sami region, where are even special challenges, and in that sense it's very important to collaborate with ARCTISEN, who is funded for this special purpose. Outi will tell about that later on. This orange-yellow symbol will be the one where we will be recognized the next 3 years. We got great local advertisement company who made us look like dynamic and forerunners with a not pink color. Why we are here and why we have this W Power project. Of course, we have common challenges. Sparse population, long distances is the major issue, and also the harsh conditions, and which is the reason for, or one reason for, the low economy. So rural areas are getting emptier and emptier, and to keep the vitality is challenging. The other big point of view is out-migration and gender imbalance caused by that. In certain regions, for example, North Karelia, in some age groups, there is a huge underrepresentation of women, even 60-40, because women tend to go to study somewhere else, for example, capital region, and they tend to stay there. They get married and out-migrate from the area. and that causes the gender imbalance, which causes again the lower population and less economy. And one reason for this outmigration is that there are not decent jobs in the region, and because women tend to be not so keen of entrepreneurship, also the ratio between male-led and women-led enterprises is quite imbalanced. So that increasing the entrepreneurship level could be the solution for keeping women in our regions and keeping our communities viable and develop them further. Even though our target group are mostly women, we don't discriminate men either, but we promote the equal opportunities for all people, including immigrants and other underrepresented groups. And also one tool for receiving this goal is to improve the business services in the regions. So also business advisors are one of our key target groups. This picture is, by the way, from Koli, the national landscape of Finland, which is situated 80 kilometers north from Joensuu, last March, Easter time. So what we are really working for, we are aiming to improve the regional business environment. So motivation, better support, boosting the mood of it's cool to be an entrepreneur. One tool to improve the business environment and skills is the learning and capacity building. So we have both regional and transnational trainings during our project. We will create a gender-sensitive, or better said, holistic coaching concept for entrepreneurs, going away from advisory towards coaching. And then we will have innovation activities to create an innovation platform to create new startups. You are our target group. We are willing to collaborate with entrepreneurs, part-time entrepreneurs, women leaders, business advisors, business coaches, startup entrepreneurs, wannabe entrepreneurs, let's say, potential future entrepreneurs. For example, students are very critical group for that. When you are around your 20s and think about your future career, the entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial mindset is a key issue for that, and that's why we have this partnership, which consists of both universities of applied sciences and business support organizations. And as said before, the context is the sparsely populated northern communities. So concretely, we offer ice cream. It was yesterday. We had a luck to meet a local Arctic ice cream factory entrepreneur, and she was giving some tastings for us. So we offer information and support, both regional level and transnational level. We offer networking possibilities. For example, during this week, we have basically 6 stakeholders with us from different countries to benchmark, to network with each other, to find possible collaboration, meeting the local entrepreneurs and so on. And I hope the networking will continue between these 2 projects and other persons participating during the coffee and lunch break today. We are gathering in the first stage of the project, there's training and capacity building needs. So our aim is to arrange good quality trainings to help you in your problems. For example, if social media marketing is one of the bottlenecks to boost the business, we will offer social media platform training. And we will arrange those trainings both in each region locally and then in these international meetings twice per year. One specific issue during our project is this peer-to-peer mentoring scheme. We will create a concept that entrepreneurs from different countries can benchmark each other and have a mentoring relationship to maybe start a business together or at least know the business environment better. And call for this will be open early next year to find the suitable pairs for that, and the project will compensate the costs of the benchmark, so both the travel and the accommodation. We will pilot this holistic coaching system also. Voluntary entrepreneurs will be asked to join the coaching pilots that will take place most probably 2020. We will arrange innovation workshops locally and also create, further develop a transnational platform for new business ideas already created in Karelia called Draft Program. So it's a tool for giving support for new business ideas in a very low threshold level to get new innovations and business. So you will find us from regional hubs in all these project regions, North Karelia, Lapland, Northern Sweden, Iceland, Scotland, Shetland and West Ireland. And in each region we will offer networking, training and support. You will find us in transnational workshops and events. Next one will take place second week of June, next spring in Oban, Scotland. So welcome there. We will circulate newsletter and publications, and our social media platforms and websites will be launched soon. WPower is the hashtag where you can find us. And meanwhile, you can contact, for example, myself with my email or the local WPower ladies, Sini, Anne and Reetta. Maybe you can say hello. So this is our team. We met Santa and Rudolf. That was one of the most important things of this week also. We are mostly powerful women, but also don't discriminate men. We have luckily good men in our group too. And with this team, we will collaborate the next 3 years. We hope that the threshold to contact us is low. Please, if anything you wish from our project, we are now open for the ideas and welcome to follow our communication channels and ask if anything related to boost your female business. Thank you very much. Okay, the next you will see also a concrete example of what we do in North Karelia. So I would like to invite here 2 representatives from North Karelia, Ms. Sari Kaija, entrepreneur, and Mervi Leminen, part of our team and a business advisor from Joensuu. They will tell about the Joensuu business ladies and the women entrepreneurship in our region. Welcome.
Hello everyone, nice to be here. And we are coming from the Joensuu city, and that, as Helena told, is right next to the Russian border, but we still have a nice conditions there. we are going to tell you about the informal network of women entrepreneurs in Joensuu or in the whole North Karelia region. It's called Business Ladies. So it's existing network and we are in part of that. So first I'm going to introduce my fresh example of the woman entrepreneur, Sari Kaija from Virranvarrelta company. So welcome Sari, and you can first tell us your story and I will then continue mine.
Hello everybody, it's nice to be here with all of you. Yeah, I'm Sari Kaija and I'm an entrepreneur about 5 years now, and I have own advertising agency which call it Virranvarrelta. And I'm here to tell you briefly my business story and a little bit about North Karelia Women's Entrepreneurs Networking. Is this working? Yeah. My business story is a very common story of self-employed woman, where business grows side by side with children and family life. When I was graduated, I started working as a graphic designer in local printing house, and also same time I teach graphic design and photography in University of Applied Science. I teach mostly evenings because day I was working in printing house. And yes, I remember that I say then that I will never be an entrepreneur, but what happened? When I get my first child, I was working about for 4 years, and soon I noticed that I want to combine my work and family life. So I left my work in printing house and started teaching full time. Mostly of my lessons was virtual, so I can work a lot from home. And when I leave my job in printing house, some customers what I had asked me, could I still make designs for them? So I decided that I also start my business as a part-time self-employed. Not yet step. I have to check my, so first years I worked from home, and same time I took care of my children. So that means I have to work a lot in evenings and weekends. But when my child grows up and start school, I can put more effort to my business, and also about in 2014, degree program in industrial design, where I was teaching, shut down, and then I have to figure out what I do next. So meanwhile, my business has a little bit grow up, and I have some new customers. So I decided that maybe now it's good time to be full-time entrepreneur, and I put more effort to my business, and so it's a little grow up. And about a year ago, I moved my office in which is being home. I moved it in Vaski, which a place where also have a small creative companies. Of course, it's great opportunity to me networking with us, with them, and also I get new business partners there. When I start working a full-time entrepreneur, I noticed that networking is very important to my business, but also my mind, because when you are entrepreneur, you don't have employees or colleagues supporting. So I start looking. I have to move here. I start searching networking where I can be part of. That way I found this networking, Women's in North Karelia, what we call it now Business Lady. It's informal networking with women's entrepreneurship and with supporting women's entrepreneurship and networking. It's also supporting peer-to-peer support and well-being. We usually meet once in a month, and one of us invites other to her company and tell her business a little bit more. And best part is that when she shares her business story to us and tell how she has come be an entrepreneur. About once and couple in year we organize bigger events, and also we can join that. What's the right term in Pohjois-Karelia? Foundation of North Karelia Enterprises, seminars and trainings. We meetings are usually in very relaxing, and we chit-chat a lot and supporting each others. But my point is this. Combining entrepreneurship and family life takes a lot of women. So it's very important that you have a friend and friends who can support you, and they are also entrepreneurs, and they can share the same worries with you, so you can boost and supporting each others. This networking with business women also bring me here to Rovaniemi, and I'm very thankful that I can share my business story to you. But now I give turn to Mervi, and Mervi can continue in this.
Okay, thanks, Sari. And Sari represents quite typical story of the Finnish woman entrepreneur, or at least the quite typical story of the entrepreneurs in North Karelia. I come from the Joensuu Regional Development Company, JOSEC, which is giving business advising to companies in Joensuu region, and I'm working there as a business advisor. My story is that I've been a woman entrepreneur for in my past history for 10 years as a business consultant, and I thought in 2010 that I will end this part-time entrepreneurship and start to concentrate on my full workload in other things. But in the beginning of this year, I already changed my mind, and I also have my own business in my free time, which is not very long. And I'm giving executive coaching for CEOs in bigger companies outside Joensuu region. So I have lots of customers in Helsinki region in my own business. But some facts and figures about North Karelia and the women entrepreneurs in North Karelia. It's about 30% of the entrepreneurs in Joensuu region are women. And that is, I think, the figure in the whole Finland. So it's quite typical. We represent the normal Finnish women entrepreneurs. And it only represents 8% of the women workforce. So it's not very common to be an entrepreneur and being a woman. And I think it's very typical to be self-employed and not to have any other people working for you, and only 30% of women have other workers and sort of are growing the company. Some of them, like we have seen today or this week, good examples of the growing or growth companies, but I think most of the women are very keen on keeping the business small. Biggest business sectors for women in North Karelia are services, well-being, healthcare, tourism. So I think that is quite typical for women entrepreneurs in the whole Finland also. I took there a graph also to show that the service sector is actually the fastest growing sector in the whole Finland. So I think we have a huge potential with these women entrepreneurs. What I see in my work as a business advisor in Josek is that more and more women start their business as part-time, like we did also. And it's very common to have a very high education level. More than half of the women who are entrepreneurs have a university degree. So mostly they are very business-oriented, very highly educated, very clever women. With this Business Ladies Association or network, we have discussed many of things, and what people say that is that they are looking for knowledge in digital tools for marketing and communication, and also the financial issues and product or service pricing. So it's quite concrete things they are looking for. Although it's informal network, we still need some real issues here. Also, service design and product development is quite common to be the problem they need more knowledge of. And also, like Sari's business idea, we are really needing those clever women who can help each other. And also the needs are, what women need is communication skills and some knowledge about the international business. It's quite typical that the women entrepreneurs are concentrating on the regional or the national market. Okay, there you can see me boosting the women entrepreneurship with the CEO of the Federation of North Karelian Enterprises, under which the informal business ladies is working. So Merja Blomberg, who is the CEO, is very keen on boosting the women entrepreneurship, and we are doing close cooperation with her. We appreciate the informal network because we want to share good practices. Maybe they are not the best practices, but they are good practices. And we want to learn new things from each other. And I think one of the key issues is maintaining the personal well-being, just interacting and sharing things with each other. So thank you for your attention. These are our contact details if you want to be in contact with us. It was a pleasure to be here and share our stories. Thank you.
At this point, if you have any questions about W Power or Mervi and Sari, it's good time to have some questions. Well, there is good time to talk also during the breaks. Now we changed the project, so the next one on the stage will be Outi Kukabi introducing the key elements of ARCTISEN project. Yeah, technical break.
Okay, I don't know if I want to use this microphone or do you hear? Yes, you can hear me as well from here. I like to stand here in this this place so I don't move so much. But thank you all for joining us today, and it has been really inspirational to listen about the things happening in W Power, and we are concentrating the same issues, but we have a little bit different perspective. Actually, I need to go and get the remote. I have to use the microphone because the camera cannot see me. So if people are following us online. So our project is called ARCTISEN, and it's culturally sensitive tourism in the Arctic. And so I am the project manager, and we have just started, like W Power, and we have our responsible leader for the project here as well, sitting, Monika Luthje. So you can contact me or Monika if you have some questions. I briefly want to go through how we end up here, how we are here. We started discussion in 2015. Actually, we had similar kind of concerns between different stakeholders and researchers, and generally we noticed that there has been something happening here. And the main question was how indigenous cultures are used when tourism is growing so rapidly, and they are usually exploited, like Heikki already said. So we had this preparatory project application, and we got the funding to actually make the application, and then we were doing the project application with partners and different stakeholders, but we didn't get the actually funding through, but we were highly encouraged to apply again. So we did it, and now we are here, and we received the funding in June. And we are now starting, and we are so happy that we are actually the hard work what we did to get to get the money, and so we can actually start helping and cooperating between different partners. They all have helped us pretty much. And actually, we don't have a really nice graphic design here yet. We are going to receive it in the middle of December, and then we are going to have nice pictures and nice presentations. But unfortunately, it's only blank now. So we are actually 8 partners from 6 different countries. We have quite wide range of different partners. There are people from New Zealand, the World Indigenous Tourism Alliance, and then we have partners from Canada, University of Waterloo. They make great job with the Indigenous or First Nations there, so we are learning from them as well. And then we have 2 partners from Norway, and then 2 partners from Sweden, and then we have Denmark, also who is the link to the Greenland and Greenlandic associated partners what we have. So we have as associated partners local tourism actors, and from every country, and destination management organizations, indigenous organizations like Sami Parliament, and then Sami Tuochi, who I hope that she will be here in a little while, because she's going to give a speech after me. And then we have some couple of NGOs, and the total budget what we are having is 1.5 million euros, more or less. And the presentations that are coming from the ARCTISEN project are actually from our associated partners, and we are really delighted to have them, to have their speech. And if you want to see faces for the partners, here are we were having nice dinner during this kick-off what we had this week, and we have shared good ideas, and they have been long days, but they have been really inspiring, and I know that we are having a really great project. So what are we actually concentrating on? We are concentrating on culturally sensitive tourism in the Arctic, and we are developing a support system for startups and existing small and medium-sized enterprises offering innovative tourism products and services. And we are concentrating on indigenous and other local cultures. So we don't want to exclude anyone for this, our project. And cultural sensitivity is quite new concept in tourism development, and the novelty of our project lies in it. And we have been asked quite many times, like, what is cultural sensitivity? How you can actually say what it is, and we have been discussing about it during the last few days quite a lot. And we have had really good discussion about it, and these post-it notes are actually from this conversation. So at this phase, we are still trying to figure it out between the partners and between different stakeholders, that what is the core of the cultural sensitivity. And I hope that during this work package 1 that we are having, and we will then, can easily say that what cultural sensitivity is. But these are the ones that came up in the most of the discussions. Tourism that respects nature and cultures, and tourism that is based on respect. So these are the main issues that I think that are the most important. But it needs a lot of discussion with different stakeholders, and not only between our partners, but you will hear when we are have figured out what cultural sensitivity really means. But we are starting from this. And we are approaching this cultural sensitivity transnationally, nationally, locally, and regionally. So not only what is it in Finland or Sweden or Norway, but also like how we can find the differences and together similarities in different. And it's important to notice that it's the sensitivity is the core value of our project, but not only in tourism, but also in the methodology and cooperation between partners. And it's the mutual respect between different actors, and also understanding of different cultures. So we are not only saying that we are concentrating on one culture, because we know that in Lapland we have many local cultures, and there's not only one culture. And we are also sharing values, and now they have recently published the ethical guidelines for Sami tourism by Sami Parliament in Finland, and you can see them from their website. They have been published like 2 months ago, and these are like something that we are searching guidance for what to do and how to share these ideas also to other countries. So that's something, if you want to check, please do. So what are we really doing? Our main objects are enhancing capacities to improve the conditions of Arctic tourism business environments, and we are developing a cluster for culturally sensitive Arctic tourism business. And we are now at the phase that we are doing the baseline study. So we are doing some desktop studies, so doing some literature review, and then we are going to do some interviews and concentrating on actually the needs of the stakeholders in different countries. And then afterwards, we are enhancing the capacities for local communities and also between our partners. And then we are going to develop a culturally sensitive tourism business cluster. But I think that the main things that we are doing in different phases of this project is we are learning from each other, we are making collaboration, we are sharing ideas, values, and that kind of things, and then we are building capacity. So that are the, and we are also doing, in this project, we are doing benchmark trips, because we think that that's the best way to learn and actually communicate and share the ideas. And I think that's the similarity that we definitely have with W Power, and that's really great. And I'm sure that we will have some kind of collaboration further on. So I guess that this is not the last time that you will see me, or I will see you. And this is actually from one of the stakeholders in Greenland. We just received this information, and they have said that it's really interesting, as it's based on our culture in conjunction with experience economy and entrepreneurship. And we are concentrating the tourist companies to develop new products and services in tourism that will highlight our culture and identity. And we must, our project must help ensure that we can continue to be proud of our cultural history and way of life, and at the same time create a framework for making money enough to live off. So that is definitely something that is really in heart of our project. And main result after 3 years of doing something, I really hope that we will have improved entrepreneurial business environment for culturally sensitive tourism. And it hopefully will give better conditions for tourist startups and small and medium-sized companies in Arctic areas. But I think that's all for me. I'm already in time. If you want to have any questions or contact me, just send me an email. We have also our common email address, artisan@uleplan.fi, and then we have our project website. It's still under development, but there's something, and we have our Facebook account as well. So please start following us, and then you will hear more about our project. But thank you, and if you have any questions, you can ask. Then, Neeta, are you ready? From yesterday? Yes. Just a moment. You can now network. Okay. Now I will introduce our associated partner in our ARCTISEN project. We have here Neeta Jääskö from Sami Tuochi Association. You can explain, yeah. Yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you. This works. Okay, thank you, everyone, and I'm very glad to be here. I'm sorry that I missed most of the previous presentations. I was trying to find a parking spot, so it's not that easy. Anyway, my name is Neeta Jääskö. I am the chairman of Sami Tuochi ry. It is a Sami Artisans Association founded in 1975. Currently, I think one of the largest, most longest-lived Sami organization in Finland. And its main purpose is to uphold Sami cultural heritage and traditional craftsmanship. We have our own handicraft tradition, which is called Tuochi in North Sami, and this is what we use as our name. And one of the other purposes of our organization is to uphold and oversee the use of the Sami Tuochi mark of authentic Sami handicraft. You can see in the picture. We have established, along with other Sami handicraft associations, a common tag for authentic traditional Sami handicraft. And there are several criteria that you have to fulfill before you can apply to use this tag. And it is also, you cannot use it for any product. It has to be traditional, has to be made by a Sami craftsman, and it has to meet certain quality demands. So when you see that mark, you can be sure that it's authentic, traditional Sami handicraft. And this is a solution that we have come up to spread knowledge and help the customer choose some decades ago. Currently, we are we're participating with the other Sami handicraft associations and the Sami Council to reorganize the use of the mark, but that is not my point today, but I think it's something that you should keep an eye on. So the core values in Tuochi, this is where we come from. It contains a lot of silent knowledge that is passed on in traditional familiar settings when you learn to make Tuochi from your elders, from your parents, other family members. There's functionality. Tuochi is typically something, and it can be an everyday object that you use, like a knife or a cup or a article of clothing or an accessory or something like that. The range is very wide. And traditionally, we consider traditional handicraft is something that is made from natural materials such as wood, horn, bone, leather, and maybe some cloths, but those are the core traditional materials that we use in Tuochi. There is an element of community imbued in Tuochi. All Tuochi is about community. We have slightly different Tuochi traditions in each community, and each have their own set of decorations, set of aesthetic thought that you can see in Tuochi. And there's also some values with regard to use of natural materials, which is sustainable resource management, that when you go and get some hay for the shoes, then you don't take everything that you can find. You will always have to leave something and live a healthy environment. So, and you cannot do everything all the time. You have to be mindful of the nature around you, the season. So the weather, of course, but also you cannot do certain things in the winter. You cannot do certain things in the summer. So it's about knowing what to use, when you can use it, and how much. And a lot of this is so-called silent knowledge, or I don't know what it's called in English, but it's it's something that is very hard to put into words, and it's learned by doing. So I think my presentation is not as logical that I would like. I made it very quickly. Core activities of our organizations is that we own and operate a separate company, Tuotti Shop. We have a shop in Inari and also an online shop where you can buy, where our members can sell their crafts. And we also distribute Sami music and literature and sell materials to craftspeople and everybody. We also organize practical craft courses. For example, one of the one that we are most proud of is the Shantic, which is the Skolt Sami married women's headdress. And before we started the course, there were 3 people who knew how to make this traditional Sami married women's headdress, which is a very, I don't have a picture actually, but it's a very decorative, highly beaded, very ornamental headdress. And only one of these people had learned it in a familiar setting from her parents and from her family. So we organized the course to pass on that knowledge, and we have been documenting it, and we are going to get the finished documentations, and we're organizing maybe an exhibition later on. I think the course is still ongoing. We also do some work with education. For example, several years ago, we published a book on the Sami dresses used in Finland, and the cover is pictured in my presentation. It's a very quick and simple way of distinguishing between the different types of Sami dresses used in Finland. So you can get some kind of an idea of what a Sami dress actually is, and maybe what it means. That is also part of our community and how we identify ourselves and each other between ourselves. And then there's our advocacy work, which is, for example, ethics and regarding Tuotti, like what kind of ethical and other rules apply when we make and sell Tuotti, and when we use Tuotti, and what kind of Tuotti we use. But that's another project. So in its heart, this is kind of like out there, but I think personally that Tuotti is a conversation between the tangible and intangible. It's making into physical being the cultural and spiritual values of Sami culture. It's a living tradition, and it takes on new qualities, it takes on new materials and ways of doing and seeing and being. But at the core, it's a conversation between our environment and our ideas of beauty, of functionality, and necessity. It's a key aspect of both material and immaterial cultural traditions. As the world keeps changing, we have some challenges present in Tuotti. The use of and copying of Sami Tuotti it's not a new thing, but there's other things that apply, like compound the problem. For instance, the status as craft rather than art, so we have a higher tax rate in sold products, which is sometimes detrimental to craftspeople trying to sell their work. There's no effective legal protection against copying and exploitation, which I mentioned. For instance, there was a case of an American woman selling Skolt Sami knitting patterns, and we see all the time traditional sacred figures used in very inappropriate settings by non-Sami designers and salespeople. So that is something that we have tried to figure out how to maybe stop, or maybe pass on knowledge that this may not be appropriate, and how to do these things in a culturally sensitive manner if they want to have some sort of Sami element in design or marketing. And Sami handicraft and the Sami culture generally still suffers from low status, so it means we get low priority. So whatever existing legal and social means of protection we have, they are not implemented, or they are prohibitively expensive, and time consuming to access, especially for a single craftsperson who sees their work copied. And then we have the challenge that people don't know that much about Sami people and Sami culture in general. So it can sometimes be hard to sell, well, of course, also traditional Sami handicraft because people don't have the cultural context, but especially Sami design. So Sami artists and designers and craftspeople often get marginalized into this kind of like little ethnic niche rather than recognizing the talent on its own merit. This is happily changing. We have Sami people working in designs and using their cultural heritage, or working with their cultural heritage, making distinct designs that are distinctly Sami. So I'm glad that this seems to be becoming a problem of the past. And regarding the use of sacred images in appropriate context, this was from my hotel room wallpaper above my bed. This is a wallpaper at Scandic Rovaniemi city, and these are figures from shaman's drum, one of the few that were preserved. And the scenery that is depicted is not very positive. And I haven't been sleeping very well there. So I'm thinking if they want to, for instance, wallpapers, could a Sami designer have done something different? Something that would be distinctly Sami, and showcase the northern art and culture in a new way. Was anybody asked to do that? Probably not. This was just an example. There's some thoughts that we have regarding Sami Tuotsi as handicraft, because that is still our core business. We don't work mainly with tourism, but we still have some operations that are closely related to tourism. The fact is that most of the traditional Sami handicrafts is bought by other Sami people, and others complain about the prices because they don't understand why a little leather pouch can, depending on decorations, cost upwards of 100 euros. And also, a large portion of traditional handicraft cannot or should not be considered products per se. For instance, Sami dresses and other accessories, but on the other hand, most of the time, bags and other such accessories are not similarly coded necessarily. There is also a growing interest in Sami handicrafts, but who will make it and how much can we make for sale? Price is an issue, especially for visitors who come from faraway places and don't necessarily have that 500 euros to spend on several items of authentic Sami handicraft. Also, the learning and making of Sami handicraft is also changing very rapidly because the learning is taking place more and more in formal education rather than traditional informal familiar settings. Also, making a living of Tuotsi can be very hard, and social security is definitely a factor here. It may not cover all artisans, especially those who are considered entrepreneurs. So we tried to bridge the gap between the interest in Sami people and Sami culture from the visitors that came to Inaari and those who but couldn't or wouldn't buy Tuotsi. We started running craft workshops. These are run in the summertime, and they have been very, very popular. People have been participating. It costs a little. I don't remember the prices. You can make a small keychain. You can make a bracelet. Something very little, and also you get a hands-on experience of making of Tuotsi, and you learn something in that process because you participate in it. So we have been very glad that this was such a success, and this is something that should probably be built on. And here we come to the visions for the future that I hope that ARCTISEN can help us achieve, and I hope that we can also provide our knowledge of cultural heritage and our competence in that field. But we need to work on expanding the existing craft workshops and build on them and find more ways, more more similar sustainable ways of working with visitors and working with visitors in other places that United may be. We also need to build more support and opportunities for Sami traditional artisans as well as designers and artists. For the moment, there is not an organization that is focused on Sami design. We have several artist organizations for fine arts, for music, but we don't have one for designs, I think. And we need more tools for economic and community support for artisans as well. And this includes maybe lobbying for a tax break for craftspeople, maybe defining Sami handicrafts as a separate category. And also with regard to our advocacy work, the higher and more functional protection of it for our immaterial rights. So that was it. In the short and sweet, I have the Tuotti shop web address is wrong, but it should be .fi. So tuottishop.fi, we have our online shop there. And samituotti.com is for our organization, where you can see some future and past exhibitions. We are also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, so I forgot to add the links. But anyway, thank you. If you have any questions, I think we have a few minutes for that. Alex?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much for your presentation. And I was thinking in terms of what you talked about regarding the use of cultural heritage in tourism, and something I've been doing a bit of research about recently has been the drums, the old drums and the cymbals that have been reused in different capacities. And I was wondering, what came to mind was one of the solutions, possible solutions for raising awareness about this issue is that I don't think these things are taught in mainstream education in Finland, and also the idea that the Sami religion doesn't exist anymore, let's say the old traditions, this idea, there's not really any discussions about it. And what came to mind, or the question I wanted to ask you was, do you feel that education in different ways in schools, universities, colleges, wherever, about the religion of the Sami people and how important these symbols are, and that they're still used, would somehow bring about a better understanding and perhaps a little bit more protection, because we have this Freedom of Religion Act in Finland. The people are free to practice their religion, free from discrimination, etc., etc. But the people that I've talked to within the tourist industry seem to get this idea that the old symbols from the 17th century and the religion, the drums, etc., they don't exist. They're not here anymore, which I don't think is completely accurate. But I don't know for sure. But I wondered if you might have any comments to say about that. Thank you.
Okay, this is working. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. I'm actually, like I said, I'm focusing on handicraft, and I'm touching on the symbols because it's a very common thread in what I would say inappropriate use of Sami symbols, and it connects to Tuotti. But beyond that, I don't really know. And what would be the solution? like this, because this touches on more than just cultural sensitivity and ethics in tourism, for example. It touches on religious freedom, of course, from being exploited. So as with that, I cannot say that's definitely a good question that warrants more research, because I know there are people who still practice these ways, and I also know that they see a lot of people are kind of like secretive about it. So I don't know if the solution would be to put this as a subject or a class into schools, but that might be on some level be a solution. So beyond that, I don't really know how to comment on that, but thank you. That was a very good point.
Any more comments?
Hello, I'm from Scotland. I'm interested in the fact that you said, if I understood you rightly, that there is no legislation to protect the Sami cultural representations and so on, so that they are used quite widely. In Scotland, the Harris tweed cloth, which you probably are aware of from the Western Isles of Scotland, has an authority where there is legislation which enables them to take legal action against anybody who counterfeits the cloth and tries to sell it under the mark. And I was wondering if there have been moves in Finland to protect the Sami artisan work in a similar way in the past, and that simply hasn't been successful.
Okay. Thank you. That was actually a very good question, because now we get into the core of the problem. Because as I understand it, it's Harris tweed, it's a single product, it's a specific kind of cloth or a product. Yeah.
There are certain requirements, and I'm by no means an expert, and if the other people from Scotland in the room want to add to this, they're very welcome. But my understanding is that it has to be woven by hand on the Isle of Harris. It's handmade in artisan, in a cottage industry in people's homes, and then it is all sold through a central authority. And there is a special mark that is sewn onto every piece of cloth to guarantee its authenticity.
Okay, so that changes it a little, because actually what we are struggling with is that the copyright laws tend to focus on a single product, patent laws and such, focus on a single product, an intellectual product, such as, let's take these, those mittens that you see. That's a typical Kautokeino pattern, but there are also always variations. People make it in different ways, depending on which family and which region they're from. And people from my region, for instance, we have a completely different pattern that we traditionally use in mittens. But those are all very variable, and it's very hard to pinpoint or find the boundaries between different traditions and where something like a protectable entity starts and where it ends. And we don't have means of protection for these general concepts, such as something has to be made by a Sami person and has to meet certain types of criteria. We also run into a problem, especially with regard to the Sami dress, that on one hand, it's a living tradition. And we have people, craftspeople, normal Sami people make their own dresses. They put their own touches into it. They use different materials, different colors even. And it's a very, very heterogenic process of how people make and use their dresses these days. So when we say that someone is copying or making a mockery of a Sami dress, we can usually tell them apart. But the counter-argument is always that, but you use all kinds of funny colors and whatnot. So So when we can't make changes to our own cultural heritage and our own dress, so that can be very hard for outsiders to understand that it's essentially they're trying to I'm thinking about these broken English prints in Japanese T-shirts. It's a similar. It's a sort of similar in that you get this botched message. You get like a botched message, something that's there just for the aesthetic value. But we can tell the difference. If you know the language, you can tell the difference between a message and something that was put there that looks on the surface that looks like some English language message, but it has no real meaning. It's completely botched. I'm not sure if I'm making any sense at this point. But the thing is that we find the most hurtful is that it's a symbol for these Sami dresses, the types that we wear, are passed down in families, and they're passed down in communities, and these are our ways of identifying each other. And when we get these copies and mockeries, we get more and more of botched messages, and we get the signal to noise ratio becomes worse and worse, and that also affects the people that wear a Sami dress and how they wear it. I mean, those who have. But with regard to the copyright question, it's something that we would have to establish on a state level. On a Nordic level, we have some international instruments for protecting our cultural heritage, but those are very hard to implement on an effective basis. But there's definitely an idea, like look at Harry Street and other similar products that under some traditions, how they are protected, and what kind of work goes into creating such protections. So thank you for that comment.
Who wants to ask something, but I think that you can continue asking questions during the coffee break, because we're 10 minutes over time. So.
Continue this on a coffee break.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Neta. And now we have a coffee break. I hope that we have reserved like 30 minutes for the coffee break, but I hope that if we are all here 11:15, then we can continue with our program. So coffee is served out there, outside of this hall. So please go and enjoy the coffee, and we will continue 11:15.
Hey, we had very interesting first session, and now between coffee and lunch we have even more interesting examples of both Lapland region and the partner regions. We will start with Marika Tiikkaja, Likiliike manager from Rovaniemi Development Limited, and she will tell us about support system for women entrepreneurs. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me here to come and speak to you about the support systems we provide in Rovaniemi area. My name is Marika Tiikkaja, and today, during my around 10 to 15 minutes speech, I will be giving you a glimpse of different organizations, what we have here in Rovaniemi locally, so you will get an idea what kind of support you will be getting when you're starting a business and, of course, when your business is already running. So it's all about when you're an entrepreneur or owning your own business. It's network, network, network. So this is why I have these different organizations. Rovaniemi Development Limited is not actually my employer. My employer is Rovaniemi Entrepreneur Society. But I work in the premises of Rovaniemi Limited. So we have this synergy that we want to use our networks because we, all in all, we work with entrepreneurs, with local companies, and we have the same main goal to make the businesses profitable in our area. So first of all, I will go through Rovaniemi Development Limited services, and further on, I will move on to Entrepreneur Society. So, just a brief overall, you probably know where this business environment is. So the population of Rovaniemi is around 63,000 inhabitants. What makes it quite special is that we have a lot of students. We have the University of Applied Sciences, so we have a lot of talent here in our city. So the area is quite big, so by a square footage, we are the largest city in Europe. So it's quite interesting. There are about 3,500 working businesses in the area of Rovaniemi at the moment. And there you can see the business opportunities in sectors, tourism, of course. Now the winter is slowly but surely coming. Tourism is a very vital part of our business environment. But of course, creative fields are important as well. We have industrial production, information technology, and cold testing, which is quite interesting. Of course, we're in the Arctic areas. And then trade and services. So Rovaniemi Development Limited is actually a company owned by the city of Rovaniemi. So it is a public sector services provider. The main goal is to actively seek out new business opportunities and ways to enhance and promote the local businesses in Rovaniemi area. So we produce, organize, and develop services for businesses and, of course, to other organizations as well. And it's important to remember that as we are a public sector service provider, all of our services are free of charge. So no worries if you're starting a business, just come to us, knock on our door, just give us a call, quick message, we'll be there, and it's all available free of charge. And what we do is that obviously we help out when you have the business idea and you want to go and step further, so to be self-employed. We will help you out with everything. seriously everything. Now, we don't do everything for you, but we will give the advising, counseling, coaching, whatever you need. No worries, we've got your back. So when you're setting up a company, you think, wow, now I have this really great business idea and I'd like to proceed. So what to do? What do I need to know? What calculations do I need? Are there some specific kind of forms or permissions? What licenses do I need? So we have all of these under our roof. So just knock on our door. So first of all, there are a lot of things about entrepreneurship that you need to know. So we will help you out with the basic stuff. Then, of course, when you come to us for the business advisors, you're going to present your business idea. And we're going to give you a nice evaluation of it. We're going to question a little bit that, okay, so have you thought of this and that? And it sounds great. Okay, idea is perfect. So let's make a plan for your business. What have you planned? If you're missing out something, we will point you out and coach you even further with your business plan. Next, of course, what does it cost? Do you need some money maybe? Is there something you need to think of when doing your calculations? What about risks? Have you thought of your risks if you are going to be a self-employed business owner? Also, there are a lot of legislation here in Finland when you're starting your business. It can be really, really overwhelming if you do it alone. Do not do it alone. You have a lot of help. Use it. We're there. So we will help you out with filling all the forms. We'll point you out the permissions with taxation. It can be a little bit complicated, but network, network, network. We have it. Come to us. So in Finland, we have this happy thing that the state of Finland, the government actually helps us out a lot. So there are different kinds of ways to get different grants and financing when starting your business. Of course, you have to be quite clever and good when you're giving the foundations of why would you need some grants and finances. So we will give you a hand with that as well. So you will get the good background for all of your applications for finances. In Rovaniemi development, we also do the evaluation of profitability of your business. We do startup investments and we check all of your sales volumes. We help with costs. And when you're starting a new business, the most trickiest part seems to be the pricing, how to price your products and services. So this we have noticed that a lot of starting entrepreneurs need to put a lot of focus on that. And for this, we have a lot of ways how we can coach it for the beginners. The thing is that for a physical product, it might be a little bit easier to find out the actual profitable good pricing. But if you're talking about services, I don't know if the Finnish people tend to be a little bit modest, but they wouldn't like to have any salary for themselves when they are pricing their service products as beginning entrepreneurs. Do you follow me? So they tend to go a little bit low on the rate. So we will put you back on track with the focus that we want to make your business profitable. And you need to get your salary as an entrepreneur as well. So who are we working with? Well, I've been talking a lot about new entrepreneurs, but of course, people who have companies already, but if they'd like to, for example, make a big investment, grow their business status somehow, we will be there as well, helping you with the finances, getting the bids for producing, etc. And of course, we talk, as you can see, with a lot of networks of our own. So it's not only about Rovaniemi area. So of course, we look the whole of the Finland, and we look over the Finnish borders as well, exporting. For example, at the moment, we have a project called Lapland Food Club, and they are exporting Lappish goods, and they are going on a mass. I think that Tuija will be mentioning this a little bit, that she has been with Rovaniemi Development in one project, and they have gotten a little bit coaching for Arctic warriors there as well. So we're also interested about foreign companies who are interested in business opportunities in our area, and students as well. So there's a lot of information what you can find. I believe that you will get the slides where you can get the English information as well, but it's all about the business support system here in Finland and locally in Rovaniemi. I didn't know for sure who was going to be here, but I'm just asking, is there some of you who are international students? Okay, at least one, so I'm happy to tell you that also, if you are an international student studying in Rovaniemi and you'd be willing to do a business of your own, it's possible. We help you with that as well. So there are just some guidelines you need to follow, and no problem. You can be an entrepreneur while studying here. So just quickly, I'm going to give you a glimpse also that outside of Rovaniemi Development Limited, there is also another association which will help you with your business. And Federation of Finnish Enterprises, so FFE, is a national big federation helping to promote the entrepreneurship in whole of Finland. And locally, we have our own society here in Rovaniemi, and this is where I work. And the whole corporate structure in Finland is that more than 93% are micro enterprises in Finland. So these are the people, they really need some support to back them up, right? They don't have the time or the money to do everything themselves. So this is why it's important to know that you are not alone. And always there is someone who will help you. Then, as we are talking about the W Power, in the W Power project, the women entrepreneurs of Finland, they also have their own society here in Rovaniemi. Actually, their chairman of the board was nominated as the entrepreneur of Finland this year. So she's a sole entrepreneur. She's working on her own, and this prize is very highly evaluated here in Finland. So there is also this type of support what you can get. Like someone always said, I think it was Sari Kaija, you said that it's good always to have a friend with you, so you can share your thoughts. So these societies are for that, so you can network with another entrepreneur, but also you will get a lot from these societies. There, together with other entrepreneurs, it is so easy to go and get some ideas. What the FFE does, it's decision-making in whole of the Finland. And then the most important thing when talking about support systems for entrepreneurs is this. So belonging to a society locally or to the national, this is what you get. So everything what you might struggle with when you are having your own business, it's a lot of laws you need to know. What about if you need to make contracts? You don't have to know everything by heart yourself. it would take tons and tons of money and time. So these networks will have your back on that, and which is quite nice that it's just a call away, and it's free of charge. And locally, we get into more and more close to Rovaniemi, the city itself. My main task working for Rovaniemi Entrepreneur Society is this. Likiliike, it's Finnish, and it means like the locals. So this is our own Rovaniemi Cities Society, where local entrepreneurs, we collaborate to create a sustainable, vital, and engaging business community. So this logo is to show for everybody, for the local consumers, but also the tons of tourists who visit Rovaniemi on a yearly basis, that this is guaranteed local entrepreneur, and this is for sure. It actually goes quite nicely to the tourism factor, that yes, we really want to be discreet about the thing that what is local and what is not. So today people, they are quite considerate when they use tourism-based services. They want to know if it's authentic or not. So there are 232 companies who bear this logo in Rovaniemi area. They are certified local entrepreneurs. We go non-profit, and what we want to do in a nutshell is to make the small entrepreneurs visible. We want to enhance their businesses, and we want to coach them, educate them, and give them a functional network in their own hometown. But I believe that I would actually love to talk about this topic for all of the day, but we have many interesting speakers ahead, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to have lunch with you today. So I'm going to give the microphone away, and I will finish off by saying network, network, network. Thank you.
Or does someone actually have any questions for you? I think that you can continue the interesting topic during lunch, have conversations over there. But then Tuija Kauppinen from Arctic Warriors is going to give the next speech.
Good morning. Oh, now it really hears. Yeah, it's something different we see here on the screen. Third time. Thank you for inviting me here, and thank you, Marika, for taking up important themes which I will touch on a more concrete level. So I'm Tuija Kauppinen, the Sales and Marketing Manager at Arctic Warriors, and we make products out of world-class Arctic herbs. To start with, I would like you. Why is this so difficult this morning? I would like to take you on a virtual tour, a virtual visit at our farm in Narkaus, which is 50 kilometers away from Rovaniemi. You will meet our product manager, Katja, who will tell a little bit the background about our business. So I can kind of like more touch on other topics. She will be talking in Finnish, but there are English subtitles.
Minä olen Katja Nisikangas ja minä olen kansanparantajan perillinen. Arctic Warriorshan käyttää vain ja ainoastaan lappilaisia kasveja. Eli se on se meidän juttu, että me käytetään just näitä meidän huippuraaka-aineita. Lappihan saatiin lähestulkoon kokonaisuudessaan nyt tämän peruuluomutyypin. Eli mehän ollaan niinku, maailman mittapuussa katsottuna niin 1/4 koko maapallon luomukeruualueesta. Että sehän on niinku ihan huikea määrä ihan niinku globaalisti ajateltuna. Eli kyllä niin kuin Lapin metsät pääsääntöisesti voi sanoa, että luomua. Lapin kasvithan on ihan ainutlaatuisia. Ensinnäkin meillä on täällä niin kuin tajuttoman puhas luonto, ihan tutkitusti, mutta myöskin niin kuin just nämä meidän kasvuolosuhteet, yötön yö, aurinko paistaa 24 tuntia vuorokaudessa. Meidän kasvit ja marjat muodostaa itseensä näitä vaikuttavia aineita, voimakkaita aineita, jotta ne niin kuin kestää tavallaan tämän jatkuvan auringonpaisteen. Ja samalla lailla tietenkin kaamos, rankka talvi, niin niitä pitää olla tosi vahvoja, että ne kestää sen talven yli. Ja sen takia ne niin kuin kehittää itteensä näitä vahvoja aineita, jotta on meillekin myös niitä hyviä aineita sitten, kun me syödään näitä kasveja tai marjoja. Me halutaan, että asiakkaat saisivat tämän kaiken Lapin mahtavuuden mahdollisimman puhtaana ja aitona, helppona tuotteena ihan sinne kotiin. Oli se sitten siellä Helsingissä tai toisella puolella maailmaa, niin se olisi mahtavaa, että saisi tämän palan Lappia ja sen aromikkuutta ja niitä mahtavia vaikuttavia aineita.
So Katja was born in the village of Narkaus. I think there's another video. Yeah, we don't want to watch all the YouTube videos. So Katja was born in Narkaus, so she's originally from Lapland, and she has learned everything about herbs in the mother's milk, like she said on the video. She comes from a family where the herbs have been used on a daily basis. It's been a natural part of their life. And so she's the lady behind our business idea to make the Arctic herbs world known and bring them to the global markets. But she soon realized that she cannot do it by herself. So we joined forces. I've been friends with Katja for over 10 years, but 5 years ago the time was right. And she, me, and my husband Ilkka, who is our CEO, started with Arctic Warriors. And when we started, a lot of people thought that we were just happy hippies, because that's what the natural product business had been. You go pick some nettles, put them into a paper bag, go to the market and sell them for €2. That's not business. So we wanted to do it professionally, and our ambition level is so high that I'm scared. It has to be high. So it's not enough that you have these world-class herbs. This is spruce sprout, grown in the purest air in the world, and lots of vitamin C and everything. But if you put it into a paper bag, it doesn't sell to the modern customer. You have to do some branding. So this is our spruce sprout powder. And actually Reetta here has a sample for you. And please smell the jar so you can really smell the power of it. It's organic, 100% natural. And when you put it into a well-branded jar, you can ask for more money. This doesn't cost €2, it costs €20 when you go to the local supermarket. And this is our latest product, which sells well for now at the Christmas season. So we included berries because actually the tourism business, which is very important cooperative partner for us, asked for berry products because they are very popular, for example, among the Asian tourists who are flooding to Lapland soon. Okay, you have a world-class product, but what if nobody knows about it? You have to do marketing, unless you are Tesla or Apple, and even they do marketing. And be courageous, and try to do things differently than other companies do. We've had a lot of fun running our business. We are pretty creative people. We've done also a lot of mistakes. But don't be afraid of mistakes. Through trial and error, you learn. This is one of our most popular videos, which has been running for like half a year now. By the way, have you gone ice swimming while here? I highly recommend it. I just went this morning. Gives you a nice kick to the day. Okay, you have a nicely branded product and you've done marketing, but still it's not enough. You gotta do active selling. I've studied languages at the university. My background is communications, creative writing. I've always hated numbers. When I started my own company, I realized that I have to learn to like, if not love, at least like numbers. Well, luckily you get a lot of help, like Marika just said, but nowadays, I really like numbers. Still, a lot of learning to do, but you get by with if you have some basic things right, you can get by. And also, I've never sold anything. It's been kind of like terrible idea to sell something. That's also a thing you can learn. It's just, I just clicked something between my ears. It's an attitude you can learn. And actually, that's what I've been doing all morning. I just came here half an hour ago because I've been on the phone calling my customers. It's not that terrible. Actually, just one lady said that, well, nice that you called. I've been thinking about you. I've been thinking about placing an order. I haven't had the time to do it. Can I do it now? Well, okay, yes, please. It's serving people. But you have to do active selling. I don't know about your businesses, but so far people don't come to our farm, wait in line for our products like they do Tesla cars. We still have a lot to do. But with active sales, you can increase your business. If not easily, but you can grow it. You have to think big. Luckily, we have, I don't know what's happening now. Luckily, we have a man in our team. Because usually, we women have a tendency to be too modest. We work hard, but we don't ask enough money for it. And then we whine and get burned out. You have to learn to ask enough money for your work and think big. Like, we want to conquer the global markets. We are not there yet. We have over 300 resellers in Finland, and we are pretty well known all over the country. But we have a long way as far as exporting is concerned. But when you have the ambition level high, you push harder as well. Don't do everything yourself. What's happening here is, this is a root of a rhodiola rosea, rose root, one of the herbs we use. They need to be washed by hand, and like with a toothbrush. You cannot put them into a machine because we want to preserve all the substances. And it's hard work. The first 2 years, we did it ourselves. Well, I liked it. I have nothing against physical work. I would love to do it every day. But there is no sense that me, who's responsible for sales and marketing, that I'm washing the roots. So one of the things I really like about being a company owner is that you can employ people. Now, every September, we employ people to wash the roots. And at the same time, I'm on the phone or meeting customers to sell the products. I don't even know what it says, because it goes somewhere. Ah, yeah, this is actually about the same thing. Make other people work for you. The spruce sprouts are hand-picked from the forest. This is one of our happy employees. She's 12. And she did a really good job, much better than I did. We need thousands and thousands of kilos of spruce sprouts. In one jar you have somewhere around there are 600 grams of spruce sprouts. That's a lot of spruce sprouts. And that's one of our most popular products at the moment. So we need to, like if it was Ilkka, me, and Katja picking those spruce sprouts, we wouldn't have not very many jars in the market. So we have a lot of people working for us. And also the Angelica and Rhodiola rosea, We grow them at our farm, but we also have local farmers all over Lapland who grow them for us, and then we just buy them. But it's all, everything is from Lapland. Ask for help. That's also hard for us women, especially. We just grin and bear and don't ask for help. Luckily, we've learned to ask for help within our team because we have different competencies, but also like Rovaniemi Business Development Center. They've helped us a lot with numbers and sales. We've asked our customers. They are happy to help. We've gotten a lot of ideas from our customers how to develop our products. You just need to ask. And networking, like Marika said 150 times, but you can't emphasize it too much. I just talked to a friend of mine who's in the same business, but she's in Helsinki, in the capital region. And I talked to her last week on the phone. And she just couldn't believe, like when I told her that I could any day call to the mayor of Rovaniemi, or the director of the regional council in Lapland, or to the bank, or I don't know, whoever boss in Lapland. Because here, everybody knows each other. And with financing, we've done a lot of, we have like a big investment project going on. We've received help with the filling out the papers and stuff like Marika said. And she just couldn't believe it. In Helsinki, you don't just go walk into a public office and ask for help. Here, we know them personally. It's a totally different thing. And also network with people in the same field, people in other fields. Well, you just cannot emphasize the importance of networking too much. But the most important thing is to be authentic, to be you. Because if you are not, it shows. We want to be kind of like happy hippies, but we want to do it in a professional way. And the most important thing is to have fun. Hopefully it shows in the picture. Thank you. Happy to answer questions. Or if we have time for questions.
Does someone have any questions?
How was the spruce sprout powder? Did you smell it? Mm-hmm. No E-codes.
I have used it quite many times, and
Yeah.
my friends have participated.
Did you have a question? Oh yeah.
Yeah, my friends have been participating in these workshops that you are having, this washing the roots.
Hi there, thank you. I'm really interested in, because unless I missed it, I don't think you covered it in your presentation, any research work that you did to prove the efficacy of the products. Some of them were branded, for example, as superfoods. Are you using existing knowledge about the benefits of these products, or did you do additional work yourself to evidence that?
Yeah, that's another thing that, no, we don't do research ourselves. Actually, it all started when the Natural Resources Institute of Finland published studies like 6-7 years ago. First of all, they showed that Lapland is the purest corner in Europe, that we have a very pure air. And secondly, they studied Angelica and Rhodiola rosea roots. For example, Angelica is grown in Hungary. They don't have Arctic growing conditions. They don't have midnight sun in summer. They don't have the Arctic summers. Angelica, which grows in Hungary, has 2% of effective substances in the roots. In Lapland, depending on which area in Lapland it grows, whether it's here in Rovaniemi or further north, it's up to 50%. There's huge difference. Same thing in Rhodiola rosea. Even when you go to Mikkeli, which is in central Finland, the levels are lower. So luckily, there are research institutes who do the research for us.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, 1 minute more, then we need to continue.
Thank you for your presentation. Actually, I'm a big fan of your products with my baby, and he really loves the honey, and me too. And the one thing is the pine powder.
Yeah, the spruce sprout powder, which was just
powder.
yeah.
I'm from South Korea, and we also use this material for many Oriental medicines, or people do use it for tea or to make rice cake, for example. And once I introduced your product, not at your before to the company, but one of my friends who worked in the television shopping mall, and he said it's really, really nicely designed, and he really want to get product sample. But one condition of this Korean market, for example, any other Asian market has the same similar conditions for television shopping mall. It should be manufactured in a large quantity, and the minimum quantity was 10,000. And I couldn't really promise him to have the quantity from this town. And do you have any idea when you grow up your business from the small level, hand making level, and you can when you grow that size, how do you deal with this problem? For example, making the products from the local factories, or do you spread that to the different manufacturers around Finland? And do you have any solutions for that?
Yeah, like I said, our aim is to go abroad, and the product has to be scalable. Finland is full of forests, or Lapland is full of forests. We will get a lot of spruce sprouts, but of course, first of all, you have to know it well beforehand. Often, people don't realize that the season for picking spruce sprouts is like 2 or 3 weeks in June. It's very, very short. So we need to know well in advance, like we already told our customers to estimate how many products they want. We can collect a lot, but once it's done, it's done. You have to wait another year. And like I said, we're gonna, I don't know, triple, maybe 10 times more than this summer, and we've started preparations for it already. We are at the moment having, actually just today, sending a sample to a Japanese agent. We are having negotiations there. Japanese market, like Korean market, 2 jars is not enough. You have to put quite a few zeros after. I hope this answered your question.
Thank you very much. That was a wonderful example of marketing, and I really like the thesis you had. Before the next presenter, I would like to remind that there is the name list circulating on the bench, so if you haven't signed yet, so it would be nice if you could sign it, that we can prove our lunch bill today. The next presenter is Sanni Orasmaa. Sound by Nature, Road to Voice goes through nature, and I'm very excited to hear what you have on your mind. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody, or actually, hello, everybody. We're going to just switch screens, and then we're about to start. So my name is Sanni. Orasmaa is my last name. And I come here today from Espoo. But we spend a lot of time these days also up in the north, in Inari, Anar. My background is that I am a jazz singer. I teach jazz voice in the Munich University in Germany. And I've lived 7 years teaching jazz to Americans in New York from 2000 to 2007. And at the same time, I've always loved nature. I guess it comes given to us Finns. I've always had nature for me as a background where I can get grounded, and from background it went into interaction. And these days I've found mechanisms that are very similar to improvising and jazz that we experience in the nature and in communication. I apologize, I will be sitting and scrolling, but hopefully we get connected anyways. So this is a photo from Pertti Turunen, who's a photographer in Inari, in Anar. How I started my company, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my company and what we do, and then if you have any questions, feel free to answer, to ask. So after the years in New York and teaching and living in southern Finland, we ended up in the north buying a big property by the lake Anarjohka, right in the Norwegian border. And we thought with my spouse that maybe we can spend 3 days there in the summertime because of the insects and everything. And we ended up spending over a month straight up. And after that we thought, we have to make some changes in our lives. And at that time I was actually serving as a university lecturer in University of Tampere. And I quit that job and I founded Sound by Nature and went to study ecopsychology and ecotherapy. And I started by just doing using nature as a safety net for people who wanted to perform. But I went really fast into singing in the nature and actually created second name for my company, which is called Luontolaulu, and in English it translates nature singing. Our company philosophy goes from inside out. So I'm very interested into what drives us, where our inner resources are, and how can we actually use them for our benefit and for the society's benefit. And so when we work with performance or with sound, we always start from feeling where we are and feeling our sound. When I talk about singing, I'm not into anything new. I'm actually following the footsteps of our fathers. The tradition of singing in the nature, with the nature, and to the nature falls back hundreds of years in the northern Europe. Hummings and singing and callings, cattle callings, have been part of our daily life. And that's something that we call cultural sounds. We usually talk about natural sounds, and the human-made sounds, mechanical sounds, but we easily forget cultural sounds that involve drumming, like we talked earlier, and ceremony sounds, and just basic singing. Singing has been always there to channel sadness and joy, to ease the hard workload, and to bring comfort in the solitude. I'm referring to lullabies also, as singing has been, they call it, the singing has been in Finland almost like a Facebook at a time. It's been like a communication channel. And we have met with songs. Songs have connected us into ourselves, into our society, and into nature. And so singing has had an evolutionary role in maintaining the physical safety of the group against predator control and in creating feelings of safety and psychological comfort between families. So we have identified ourselves through songs, through singing. Isn't that beautiful? Yes, it's my passion. I think if I could choose, my mission would be to bring all the people of the world to forests to sing. I could not, I think many problems could be solved that way. So, besides singing, nature has also a platform singing. The nature has served also through the natural acoustics. So I've spent lots of time in Munich area in Germany because my work there, trying to find places that would have echo. And it's been really hard to find. And that's something also when we're in the cities that we hardly ever hear our voice echoing back. And in nature, in Finland, we have echo everywhere. The forests, they reflect our voice and our sound. And I found out that when we hear our sound, it's almost like looking at a beautiful photograph of yourself. You get confirmation of your being, strength, maybe get even inspired. So natural acoustics, it's also interesting. We have a professor or a study group in Helsinki University led by Riitta Rainio, R-A-I-N-I-O, who study acoustics exactly in the ancient where we have rock paintings and stuff. In those places, they have noticed that they have many times they are connected with specific echoes. So I'm again not tracing anything new. This all things exist. I'm just interested in how we can actually benefit today of traditions that have existed for a long time. And so I've come up with some keywords: intuition, authenticity, space, aesthetics, empathy, enjoyment, nature, connection, space, harmony, freedom, and respect. These all are values of sound by nature. And through these values, we have thought and connected with people. And our customers pretty much share the same values. This was interesting because we talked about the same subject at the ARCTISEN project yesterday. Here we have a group of different trainers from different fields. Many people have no musical background, but they're interested in how their own voice can benefit in their profession. Other customers include these are professional singers from Sibelius Academy. I also train actors. And then here we have a group of kindergarten teachers who come to forest with me to sing, but also to discuss and to learn from each other. And here is a group of company, just a team. They are singing together on the lake and finding new connections, strength in individual sound, learning about adjusting your place in the group. We always go towards the positive. And so the products that I've developed together with my clients, they involve forest sound walks, retreats, few-day retreats. Then there are a few-hour workshops, pretty much depending and planned for each customer. But the customer, again, usually comes because they share the same values. And at the end, I would just show you an example of forest sound walk. We walk through the woods slowly, humming and breathing, listening how the nature responds. This is usually, when I started forest sound walks, they were an hour trips to the forest. These days they usually last 3 hours with a 30-minute introduction indoors first. Then we go out. We don't always sing, because singing is a very personal thing. But very often there's some humming involved. And then at the end of the 3 hours, there's always discussion also afterwards, about 30 minutes. It's not the silence that relaxes us in the nature, but the soothing sounds we hear when noise is left behind. So at the forest sound walks, we start by listening, sensing, exploring different ways to touch, how the ground feels, how to navigate without navigators, how to see without a camera, what kind of emotions are connected to our senses. So we talk about haptics, if you know that word. Probably this gang knows the word. And here's some sensing. The groups are usually about 10 people, not much more. And our clients can be anything from going with a wheelchair into climbing in the trees. We have everything. Very important about sound is that when we hear the sounds of nature, when we hear our sound, it brings us the feeling of belonging. Here's a little bit about the trail. And at the end, I have divided the forest sound walk experience into tuning, humming, and calling. So the tuning is tuning into the scents, sounds, textures, and tastes. Humming, caressing the body and the mind through simple hums and melodies. If you place your hand on your chest, do a little exhale. Let the air in, and then next time exhale with an M. You can feel a little tickling sensation. You can hear a little tickling sensation under your hand, and that's called resonance. About 80%, even 86% of our body is water, and that water resonates with the water in the trees. It's very important for me that what we do is science-based and not beliefs-based. And then the third part is calling, when we use louder sounds without losing the power of ourselves. So, thank you very much for sound by nature. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Or comments.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And something else. I could have a question for the audience. Do you know anything similar in your regions? Just answer.
cranky old, I hope you heard everything I said so far. I'm Joe Graney, I'm from the West region of Ireland, and I identified with a lot of what you said. I'm at the end of my career, and I'm a classical cranky old cynic. I'm driven crazy from the, I can't find the words because I'm frustrated by it all, but the madness that surrounds me, and I live in a part of the world that a lot of people would really love to live in because of how they consider that free space, uncontaminated nature, relationship to the earth, relationship to the animals, the sky, and so on, and the wind, and so on and so on. I probably won't get to any question beyond the joy of having a one-to-one look at you and conversation with you, and I have friends who I will connect with you for sure. I play a traditional Irish drum, which is called a bowron. You might be familiar with it. It's a vertical drum played with just one hand, and you temper the pitches with it with the other hand. And I've always found it amazing that people say, "Can you just play the drum?" Sometimes in summertime we would gather on islands with a fire, and they would say, "Play the drum," and I would say, "Oh, no, it's not any good just on its own. It's an accompaniment instrument." And I didn't realize that they actually needed it. They needed some form of rhythm to accompany how they were going to feel and how they were going to speak to the person next to them and how they were going to order their thoughts to come to a point where they needed to be. None of us can put words on, maybe you can, but it's certainly not the point where you were when you were in whatever rat race of life you thought was what you need to do to feed families and so on and so on. I could talk to you for 100 years. When you talked about you mentioned Facebook. I have a small farm that I was raised on, and there's a well on the farm, which was the well for the whole village once upon a time before we put water into pipes that we can now charge people for. It's quite funny, we have a battle in our country that's nearly brought down a government over charging people for water. We have the highest rainfall in the world falling on top of us. In the floods in the winter, it actually comes up through our houses, and now they want to charge us a lot of money to pipe it into us sideways. So old cynics like me love to tell the story in that way to really make the point. But this well, I was explaining to my wife and daughter, this was where courtship happened. People came from different places when the religious suppression prevented people from openly courting a man or a woman, and they would come to the well for water, and they would leave notes hidden in stones for each other. And this was the Facebook of 1880, 1890, and the water was part of that, and the water is still flowing in that well in my land, still uncontaminated. Nobody's using it, of course. And I can't say why, but you're helping me now understand why, that I sometimes, I go and I sit there and I don't know why. And I don't know, it's just you brought out something. Yeah. You brought out something that's quite amazing. So beautiful. Anyway, back to the comedy side of it. The Facebook of the time was that the people couldn't be seen to be at the well at the same time, or the adults might suspect that this was courtship and they needed to stamp it out, or the priest or the Catholic Church needed to suppress people and control their lives. So imagine they were reduced to this, that they would, in the note, appoint times that I will come for water tomorrow at 6. And then you pick up the note in the next 24 hours, and you'd know the love of your life for the future would be there at 6, so you could accidentally go for water at 6 yourself. Guess what? You'd accidentally meet at the well. And why were they drawn to that thing? I mean, it was convenient as well. So.
I can imagine that we will try this next week. Yeah. and find new ways, because that's exactly pouring from what we already know, applying it for what we do today. I think that's really, really important.
I have a friend who's more deeply into, in a full-time way, the connection to nature than me, which I would be so happy to connect you to. And I'd love to get him up here to meet you. Yeah. I had an event recently in my village where we were talking about suppression and history. I come from the house where the word boycott in the English language converted to a verb. It happened in my kitchen, where I was literally born. And it's a verb in the English language now all over. And the movement that surrounded the changing of that word from somebody's surname to a verb precipitated what we knew in our country in the 1870s, 1880s as the land war. People were looking for freedom of use of land, occupation of the land, fixity of tenure, fair rent, freedom of sale of your tenure, and so on. And all of that movement subsequently precipitated everything Gandhi did in India, which subsequently precipitated everything that Martin Luther King did in the US. That all started in my kitchen. I still have that space as a rubble of a heap of stones, but the stones have the story. But I had an event and we had Cree Indians from Canada talking about their connection to the earth and how the awful people, the conquistadores that came there, tried to suppress their culture and need and natural instincts to connect to their surroundings and their earth and this sustainable.
And these are exactly the same mechanisms that we need today. It's nothing new, but they can very well be utilized today. And so I'm just wondering how many of you like to sing in the nature? See?
Never stop.
I knew it. If you have a chance, please shoot me an email and send me your nature singing story, since I'm just writing my second book in the subject. So that would be wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. Thank you, Sanni. And we are a little bit behind the schedule, so we try to make everything a little bit faster, if I can get this one work. But next one we have from Regional Council of Lapland.
Hello everybody, my name is Johanna Asiala and I come from Regional Council of Lapland. I'm here today representing Arctic Smart Rural Community Cluster, Maaseutuklusteri in Finnish, if somebody knows already. Thank you for having me today here and thank you for very interesting and inspiring presentations so far. And my project is called Rural Cluster Communication, and those are the social media channels that we are using under the username ARCTISEN, which was the previous project that we ran together with my colleague Tanja Häyrynen. We didn't want to mess up with the usernames, that's why it's a different name there. Today I'm going to tell you about what does our cluster do here in Lapland, how does it enable cooperation between enterprises and supporting authorities, and briefly about social economy in the end of my presentation. So about the cluster, why do we do this? We do this for the good of Lapland's rural countryside. We want to stop the outflow, capital outflow from Lapland's villages. Here's one calculation done in the cluster. There are about 185 viable villages here in Lapland with 1,400 farms and inhabitants about 37,000. And the purchases outside from the region is over 300 million in the form of energy and food, even though we could produce food and energy, renewable energy here in the region as well. So we want to emphasize to everybody when we communicate about these things that we are not in the middle of nowhere, but in the middle of all the possibilities thanks to our nature and the pure raw materials from it. And then, as a nicer visual picture about our cluster, it's unfortunately in Finnish, but I tried to translate it in English quickly. So in the center of our cluster are the enterprises, business life here in Lapland. We want to create new kind of entrepreneurship here in Lapland and support the already existing ones in any way that is possible. And there are a lot of women entrepreneurs, especially in the natural product sector here in Lapland, such as Tuija, who spoke already here, and Anna-Riika Lavia from Arctic Ice Cream Factory, and Sanna Jämsä from Wild from Arctic, to mention few, who are also closely working together with our cluster. We have also knowledge transferring from different research institutes to the education institutes, such as Lapland University of Applied Sciences and vocational schools. In the roots sector, we have resources, meaning regional development and the projects, whether they are domestic projects or international projects, and we do different programs to guide the financing here in the area. And now we are making this rural program to the next EU program years 2021 to 2027. A little bit about what we tell when we go to the municipalities and meet municipality leaders and decision-making people and local people as well. We have just opened 2 different websites because our project, we have 2 main themes, renewable energy and food refining, and we have opened these 2 pages. They are unfortunately only in Finnish, but they collect the information on those sectors. Lapin Energiakonttori, Lapland's energy office, brings together different actors in the energy sector and gives unbiased energy advice to consumers and municipalities if they want to exchange from fossil fuels to renewables, for example, in heating their houses. How can they do that, and how is it financial, etc. And then we have Lapin Elintarviketalo.fi, which is Lapland Food House translated, and it gives advices to new entrepreneurs or those who want to become entrepreneurs in this field. And Anna-Riika Lavia is actually behind this website, so she's closely working together with us. We have also Facebook pages with new information coming in all the time, so you can follow us there too. And a little bit the examples that we tell, this is one example of the food procurement and its impacts to regional economy. Here are the products that was used when calculating the impact to dairy products, beef, open-wheel vegetables, and potato. We have 190,000 consumers in Lapland per day, including tourism. And if we purchased all of these products outside the region, we would lose 90 million euros and almost 400 jobs per year. But if we would produce and refine 30% of those products here in Lapland, we would get 27 million euros more to stay in the regional economy and over 100 new jobs in the region. So we're not talking about small things here. And then we have contacted all the municipalities in Lapland and asked, how much do you use local food in your public kitchens? And this is what they have answered. Some of them haven't answered yet, but we're working on it. And the goal is to have 30% self-sufficiency ration here in Lapland. Sodankylä is by far the only municipality that has reached it, but many have good numbers as well. We are the admins of Rovaniemi's Reko Circle, which has a principle that all the products come from the producer straight to the consumer without any middleman. So it's a Facebook group with over 4,400 members already, and producers from all over Lapland, from Utsjoki to Rovaniemi and Kemi. And we have distribution days every other Thursday in Pöykkölä, the other side of the river. And yeah, the next distribution day is actually before the Independence Day, so it's on Wednesday. If you want, you can go and join the group and check out what kind of treats you have there for the next time. And the other theme in our project is energy. So here's one example that we are telling forward and trying to wake up the decision makers. This is about the impact of procurement for regional economy, and this was done in another region, not in Lapland. One municipality made a request for energy wood and chose a Russian vendor because of the 9,000 euro savings per year. And then they started to calculate that was it really that big, the saving? And they found out that they lost 6 to 9 jobs and harvest support and taxes, and altogether the losses for regional economy were over 600,000 euros per year, compared to the 9,000 year saving made when choosing this vendor. So pretty big difference there. And another example about energy transition done in another project. We are telling also the results of our other projects, not only ours. And this is about transferring from fossil fuels to domestic wood chips and pellets in heating. And it would create 32 man-years more in Lapland, of which 9 years are from construction work. And it would bring us investments, income for the forest owners and forest companies in Lapland, and also tax revenue. So pretty big amounts of money that we are talking about when we would just change from the fossil fuels to more sustainable raw materials. We are only one of the 5 smart specialization clusters working here in Lapland. And if you get this material later, there's a link for this smart specialization tabloid that was published, which tells the stories about the other clusters as well, and of course about the rural cluster as well. And last but not the least, we have been developing here in Lapland with a vast network of different experts this social economy model, which brings together public sector actors like municipalities, cities, and education institutes, and private sectors such as entrepreneurs and civil society, NGOs, village associations, and local people. And we want to make our economy sustainable in a social way too. So we want to help to employ those people who are maybe in a more difficult spot in our work markets, and you know, employ the local people as well in tourism and other sectors. And the building blocks for social economy here in Lapland are cooperation between different actors, courage to experiment new ideas, and the hint of pure madness, which goes also in our Lapland brand. And in the end of my presentation, I would like to emphasize that the cluster, rural cluster, and other 4 clusters are here for the entrepreneurs in Lapland. We are here to help them in any way possible if they have some sort of questions concerning for financing or product development, exporting, whatever it may be. They can always contact us, and we can find the right experts to solve their problems and help them in any way. We can contact them with right experts and organize meetings or seminars or whatever help they need. So we welcome everybody here in Lapland to come and start their own business and use the pure raw materials that we have here in Lapland. That's about it. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them now.
So maybe we skip the questions now and continue the discussion on lunch. Johanna will be there. Okay, sorry. Sorry, but... Thank you so much, and it was nice to meet you again. So now we will have a guest speaker from Swedish side of the border, Leila Nuti from Jokkmokk community, and she will tell about the Arctic Design of Sweden project. Welcome, Leila.
But it works? Or?
But yeah, but if you can move a little bit that way, because the camera, what we're streaming.
but it's not so important.
Okay.
Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name is Leila Nutti. I'm from Jokkmokk, from northern Sweden. And I have followed Strukturum from Sweden here to be a part of the W Power project. And I'm a Sami entrepreneur. So these are my businesses that I run in Sweden. And I'm just going to tell you a bit more about two of them, actually. So reindeer herding is what is most important in my life. I'm grown up with reindeer herding parents, and I help out with the reindeers as much as I can. It's like the base of my life and affect and influence all the life choices I make and whatever I choose to work with and put all of my time to. And I'm a part of a mountain reindeer herding community. So it's the biggest one in Sweden, and it's called Sirges. So we move from mountain area grazing lands to winter grazing lands in the forest. So I think that's the biggest difference from how they work with reindeer herding here in Finland, actually. And I have also started up a tourism business called Vaisas. I offer a weekend package with other businesses in Jokkmokk. I offer accommodation, staying, local and traditional food activities, and the main thing in my business is to herd reindeers. So I let people from all over Sweden or all over the world to come to Jokkmokk and herd reindeers with their own herding dog. So the most of my clients have reindeer herding dogs, but maybe they can't herd reindeers by themselves. So they have maybe these porokoiras, Lapin porokoira, Laponian herders, Finnish laphound and Swedish laphound. And I think it's really important to learn, to educate people about the Sami culture. So with my business, I also learn my customers about the Sami culture and the reindeer herding, how it has worked in the past and how it works nowadays with the snow machines and with how the dogs work today. And so that's a big part of my business, that they learn about the Sami culture and reindeer herding. So when they go back, they can educate other people. So they don't come to Jokkmokk and just herd reindeers. And as I said, we only have 3 dog breeds in the entire world that are like made for herding reindeers. So we have the Laponian herder, the Finnish laphound, and the Swedish laphound. And for me, it's quite important as well to preserve that type of dogs and to preserve that they can herd reindeers, because they have some special things that separate them from other herding dogs. For example, they had to bark when they herd reindeers. So I also have a small breeding of Laponian herder. So I use my dogs in reindeer herding, and I take puppies of them so I can sell them to other reindeer herders also. And I also work part-time in a project called Arctic Design of Sweden. So now the project started in January 2019, and now we have the pilot study of it. So I work there, and my job is to go around in northern Sweden, in the Norrbotten county, and tell more about the project. The purpose of the project is to take entrepreneurs from North Sweden, the counties of Norr and Västerbotten, to go international with their products and their designs. So it's a 3-year project, and it runs until 2021. So they can have products or design or handicraft and be a part of the project and go abroad and sell their product and to market the whole community or the whole area of northern Sweden to other countries. So one way of going abroad and do this is to arrange pop-up shops and exhibitions or be a part of fairs. So some of the cities we plan to go with entrepreneurs are Copenhagen, New York, Milano, and Tokyo. So now I'm going to try to show you a short movie. So this is from the pilot study where they took entrepreneurs and their products from Västerbotten County to Tokyo. So that was some of the products that they brought along. So the result of this, it was very appreciated, and they tried the whole concept and everything worked out well. So now they know they tried it and they know that it works. So we know this will be a good idea. So we also have a homepage where you can read more about the project, or if you have any questions, you can send an email or anything. So it's arcticdesignofsweden.com. And I also brought some information. So I brought my business card and some information. So I can just leave them here up in front. And if you want to take some, you can just take. So these are the three of us that are working with the pilot study now until New Year. So it's about a month that we have still. So we have the project manager, Stina Berglund. She works from Skellefteå, so Västerbotten County. Emily Sjölund in Västerbotten County as well. And then it's me, so I work from Jokkmokk. And you can also see the financiers of the project down there. So Kiihto, thank you.
Thank you very much, Leila. I hope that people will contact you and ask you questions during the lunch. Next person we are having to present is Seija Tuulentie from Natural Resources Institute, Finland. And we will make some adjustments for the presentation. Just a moment.
Okay, I was said to wait for a moment. Not anymore. Okay. So hello everybody. It's really. So it's really great to speak after the previous presentation, which was very interesting and good example of combining reindeer herding and Sami culture with tourism. And I will be a little bit more general level and a little bit more negative maybe in that sense, that it doesn't always work maybe so good, but that was really great example, and it also shows how it's very good from the gender point of view, as we all know that these remote regions are lacking female residents. So tourism is a very good way to give work and bring and let the females to stay in the region, because often the livelihoods are like for males. I'm not Sami myself, and I've been working with Sami research for 20 years now or something like that, and now and then with Sami tourism research with Arvid Viken and Dieter Müller especially, who are also involved in this ARCTISEN project. And in these 10 minutes I'm not going to really give answers, but maybe more to give something to think about. This question, which has been quite hot debate in Finland about how to represent Saminess in tourism and how to use it in tourism, there has been hot debates, but they are not new. Here is a magazine article from year 1954, where there was the title, How Sami See Tourists. And the main point was that tourists don't understand where they go, they don't understand Sami culture, they just go in their homes and they look at all their things and ask intrusive questions. So they don't really remember or understand that they are in somebody's home. And a tourist was said that they should act with similar respect as the Sami do in their areas. So it was a debate kind of at that time already. And lately, these ethical issues and responsibility issues have really been discussed a lot in tourism industry. There are something like responsible or sustainable tourism principles made by state forest owner Metsähallitus. They are kind of making contracts with tourist entrepreneurs and trying to make them follow this kind of sustainable way to practice tourism. And then down there is an article with tourist researchers and entrepreneurs that there is a new kind of sustainable and responsible tourism network. So these are quite important topics nowadays. And it's not really new, but the importance seems to be increasing. And there are also these worries of over-tourism, which we have heard, especially in regard to Icelandic tourism or tourism in Barcelona or Berlin or such. And it's not really a question that tourism has grown so much, but it's more like that people are not anymore so kind of totally positive towards tourism, but they are also seeing the problems. And there is what is maybe the most important in this respect is that there has not just now been accepted these principles for responsible and ethically sustainable Sami tourism. And there are a lot of guidelines how to enhance tourism in Sami in regard to Sami culture. And what I find maybe the most important in these guidelines or these principles is that Sami people should have active role in tourism. That's of course something they should take as well. So tourism business works of course like business, and it's a question of economy and money. So culture is not always in the forefront. But it's the Sami tourism is seen for how Saminess is used in tourism, and also how it should be used. It's maybe not so much about Sami people practicing tourism, which is kind of interesting. Oh, what happened? Sorry. But I would say that there are really some tricky concepts and issues related to these questions of indigenous tourism. First of this, authenticity, which is often referred like not reflecting really what does it mean to have authentic experience. In tourism studies, of course, there's a lot of literature on authenticity, but it's always often in everyday language. It's used quite self-evidently. In Norway, there was in a conference, tourism conference, there was a lot of discussion. There were Sami entrepreneurs, and they were worried about what should they show to people who come. Should they show like traditional Sami culture with these teepees and reindeers and everything, and costumes and everything, or should they somehow show what is the everyday life in Sami area? And that's very difficult because tourism works in that sense that tourists want to see something kind of stereotypical things and traditions. We don't really want to see somebody watching television or something like so everyday life things and something specific. Then there is a big discussion on this cultural appropriation, how we are using other cultures in tourism. And of course, since the world is so mix of cultures and we are using different kinds of features, so it's not so easy to say. There are some obvious things like using Sami costumes, being non-Sami and using Sami costumes, or some other which are really specifically Sami things. But if, for example, a Sami entrepreneur uses Icelandic ponies or horses, and in their business is that cultural appropriation, or if huskies are used in Nordic countries where they are not that kind of traditional things, or whose tradition is snowmobiling, for example, which are the biggest tourism attractions. So I think there is a lot to kind of evaluate, and not using this in so self-evident way as it's sometimes used, or sometimes said that that's bad thing. And then this community versus individual is, I would say, is very interesting issue also, because among indigenous people there is maybe much stronger communality and stronger emphasis on communities. But then tourism business is more like this individual type of doing things and being an entrepreneur and trying to benefit economically. So there is some kind of tension between that. And the idea of homogeneity, it's much easier to think that indigenous people are kind of homogeneous group than we think, for example, of us Finns. Of course, we have different parties, we have different opinions, we have quarreling with each other, but then when it comes to a minority culture, then it's much easier to emphasize this, that they should be kind of homogeneous. So these are only some concepts or things which I think should be discussed in relation to Sami tourism. And as I said, they are not new. We had this project, Tourism and Sami Identity, about 15 years ago already. And there was conclusion that this Sami culture or indigenous tourism issues are not same in different Nordic countries. For example, there was quite obvious difference between Finland and other two countries, Sweden and Norway, that in Finland there were more this exploiting Sami culture. It was more seen as a problem among majority, exploited by majority. And then there was also, maybe tourism was at that time more important for Finland than for Norway or Sweden, so that there was still quite positive attitudes toward tourism. And Sami people themselves said that this could be something that kind of enhances Sami culture and makes it possible to preserve it. So it was both maybe more negative and positive in Finland, and in Sweden and Norway at that time it was like it's not an issue. It's we don't think really about tourism, and Sami people does not have much to do with tourism. Well, it has changed, and it was just last autumn when there was this discussion. And again, it was seen that these issues are different in Norway. For example, this question of authenticity and how to present Sami culture for tourists, like those coming from cruise ships, big groups who want to see it very quickly in a few hours, and how to do it without not exoticizing it or making it museum-like thing. And in Finland, it's still this question of exploitation of Sami culture in majority tourism. As some conclusions, there is this book, this Tourism and Indigeneity in the Arctic, which is edited by Arvid Viken and Dieter Müller. I also have my own article in that, and there is the conclusions. These come mainly from that book, that we have to just see that Arctic indigenous peoples are part of the modern society and part of the tourism system, so they are kind of using it, but also they have specific relation to that and affected by tourism in many ways. But as I said, I think what is important, that they should have a say in the use of their culture, use of land areas, for example, for tourism purposes, and that should be stronger, and also use tourism to benefit their culture and themselves. And this is maybe Dieter Müller's comment, that tourism gives and takes, and that happens. Here is actually kind of sad picture, not very good. It's from Levi, which is the biggest tourism resort in Finland, and it was before it was built, the last part of it, which became quite urban-like area, and there was this kind of image what it will be. And I think this is really sad, empty place with one Sami woman watching the windows. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe one quick question of the results, if there anybody has questions. Well, that was really interesting. Is that publication available online? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for your time. Last but not least, we have a representative colleague from Scotland, Cathy Hickinson, and she will share her tasty entrepreneurship story. So she's part of our W Power team, representing Highlands and Islands Enterprise. Welcome, Cathy.
Hello, everybody. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak with you all today. Thank you for welcoming me and my colleagues here. As Helena said, can I just check, can you hear me all okay? Yeah. As Helena said, I'm mainly here because I am the project lead for Scotland's Highlands and Islands contribution to the W Power project, which Helena described earlier. However, I'm also a female entrepreneur. I consider myself to be a female entrepreneur in development. I think every entrepreneur is always in development and learning. And what I offered to speak about today was a little about two of the businesses which I ran immediately prior to joining Highlands and Islands Enterprise. So I've called it Early Startup Female Entrepreneurship in the Highlands of Scotland. And my background has been always in food and drink. I originally trained as a dietitian, and I worked in public health nutrition for many years. And that always seems to be what I'm drawn back to in my businesses. As Helena alluded to, I'm the last presentation. I'm the only presentation which now stands between you and your lunch, but at least my presentation is about ice cream. I don't know whether that makes things better or worse. We shall see. And the other thing that's really important for me to mention, and as I've kind of suggested already in my opening comments, is that these are two businesses which I no longer run or own. One of them, the one on the right, Point Cottage B&B, which was an accommodation business, I closed at the time of, well, I will explain more, and the gelato business is now being run under new owners, but I will explain how it came to that point. So this is just a little snapshot, a sharing of my journey through my businesses. So as I briefly mentioned, I had a long career in the public sector working in nutrition. Most of it was in Edinburgh, a beautiful, beautiful city that I hope if you haven't visited yet, you will someday. I lived there for nearly 15 years. But in 1994, I had the opportunity to take voluntary redundancy from my job, and with my family, my two small children, and my then husband, we moved to the north of Scotland, to a place called Ullapool, which is very far north in Scotland, about 4 hours drive from Edinburgh, and about an hour from the nearest big city, which is Inverness. So just to set it in the wider context of the region, makes it look much bigger than it actually is there, but you can see for the W Power region stretches from Iceland through Ireland, Scotland, and obviously Sweden and here in Finland. So we are actually not far off the latitude of Helsinki, but we are much warmer climate, much warmer, milder, wetter and windier. So having moved up to Ullapool, I had no job. My husband then had brought a job with him, and I was looking at what will I do. I had my two children, and I was really keen, like a lot of women, to spend more time at home, not to be out working so much as I had been in Edinburgh with my previous job. So we were looking for somewhere to live, and that was kind of what led to the first business. But I should say this slide really refers to some of the business support that's available in Scotland. And as I was leaving my job in the NHS, the National Health Service that is, I started taking some of the courses from this organisation we have in Scotland called Business Gateway, which provides training mainly for start-up entrepreneurs and also then some support for established entrepreneurs. So I'd done all these Business Gateway courses, but I didn't have a business idea at this stage. I just knew I wanted to do some kind of business. We moved to Ullapool, as I've said, a beautiful city, very maritime. I don't know, is there a pointer on this? Is there a pointer? No? If you could see the part sticking out into the sea, this is it's a geological feature, you know, it's a washout from when the valley was glaciated. This is a raised shingle beach that most of the village in Ullapool is built onto. It's the main ferry port that leaves for the islands down the west coast of Scotland called the Western Isles or the Outer Hebrides. So it's quite a busy community. It's about 1,300 people in the main village and about 2,000 people in total in the municipality, the area around it. So we were looking for a house to buy as a family, and we found a house right on the far end of the point, the tip that you see there. This is it. It's called Point Cottage, and it was running as a bed and breakfast. So all of a sudden I had a business idea. I decided that I would continue, pick up the business that had existed there before. I felt that as a new entrepreneur this would be quite a good move because it was a tried and tested business model, and I knew it would make money. And also I would be home based so that my family, you know, would be around me, and I would always be there when my kids came home from school. So now I'm not sure, the pictures have come out quite well. I've never had time to do presentations when I was running my businesses because I was always too busy working, so it's quite interesting to see how it's reproducing as a presentation. But really I started, as I described on the point, with the big bed and breakfast business, and this is just a flavour of it. I developed branding for it. I started doing lots of home baking. My whole time was taken up by the cleaning rooms or baking, basically. But then, well, I should say that this was in 2014 now, and during that summer I became a little frustrated because more and more, I noticed there were lots and lots of tourists coming around. You know, our season is the summer, it gets very busy. All I had was 3 rooms, and I couldn't expand my business beyond that. Once I was full every night for 3 rooms, that was it. So I was looking for another opportunity. Somewhere inside, this entrepreneurial spark was sparking off again. And then this came along, which is my slide to represent something called the North Coast 500, which is, it's really a marketing exercise. There are always beautiful roads in the north of Scotland. It's a beautiful drive. People used to come and visit and do that drive, but it had never had a name until some marketing experts at Strathclyde University were consulted actually by an organisation called the North Highland Initiative to come up with an idea that would spread wealth around the north of Scotland through the means of tourism that lots of people could key into. So they came up with the idea of naming the drive around the north of Scotland the North Coast 500, a 500-mile route, which you can do either clockwise or counterclockwise, which would spread business and tourism around the region. And it's been really interesting listening to some of the presentations this morning about culturally sensitive tourism in the context of the North Coast 500, because really we weren't consulted on it as communities on this route, and whilst it has its benefits, it has had some definite disadvantages, and the sort of sensitivity to the communities who are living along that route, as well as the fact that, yes, they are keen to benefit economically from it, has been part of that. So Ullapool is in sort of the top left of the route there. So more and more people coming through. What was I going to sell to them? That was the question. So I looked around Ullapool and concluded that although we have a good range of tourist offer, one thing which we weren't offering was a good quality ice cream product. And even in the north of Scotland, tourists want to buy ice cream. Everybody loves ice cream. I've discovered that it's actually one of the easiest products to sell because almost everybody is your customer. I've met almost nobody, perhaps apart from myself, who doesn't like ice cream, which is a very strange thing to go into a business. I mean, I like it, but I don't love it. I would, if you said to me on a hot day, would you rather have ice cream or a cup of tea? I would say a cup of tea every time. But I think there's a really interesting thing here around you can be passionate. It's important to be passionate about your product, but there are different ways of being passionate about it. Sometimes if we're too in love with our product, the business can fail because you aren't business-like enough about it. So I don't think there's anything wrong with being measuredly in love with your product, if you like, because you need to keep a business head about you when you're running a business. So anyway, the North Coast 500, and this is just a little bit more about it and the scale on which it's grown. It's now being marketed as and has become one of the most iconic destinations in Scotland, or the North Highlands have, because of this drive. But people just come and they zoom around and they tick it off their list that they've now done it. But hopefully, even if they don't stay the night, or 1 or 2 nights, they at least buy an ice cream on the way. So that was my job, to sell them this ice cream, and this was me on the front of Ullapool. Having done all the courses, again, it's been really very interesting for me this morning to reflect on the contrast between Scotland and Finland and the amount of support that's provided for businesses. So I had done the courses in Edinburgh, but then in this remote Scottish village, it was actually very difficult to find additional support. I had one visit from the Business Gateway gentleman, and he just didn't seem to really get what I was doing or have anything additional to offer. And sad to say, and this is one of the reasons I'm doing the job I'm doing now, that at that moment, I had this moment where I just thought, well, that's it, I'm on my own, I've just got to do this. And although that's a very sad thing, in another way, I think it also reflects the fact that a lot of female entrepreneurs, it's that drive that you have to keep you moving through. So I bought a domestic ice cream maker, I started making ice cream, selling it locally to people, marketing it through Facebook. I was doing it in my own kitchen, then we built an extension onto our house, which meant we could have 2 kitchens. So one of the kitchens became the ice cream kitchen. I had the location, as I've described, on the front, right by the shore. So I started doing less B&B. The B&B guests got less and less food, and eventually they got no breakfast. All they got was a room. That was the deal, because I was concentrating on developing my ice cream business. But again, and this is an important point, I really needed to keep running the B&B business, because that was the money-making business, that was the cash cow that was feeding me and enabling me then to develop the ice cream business. And for those of you who were there yesterday, when we had the lady from the Arctic Ice Cream come in and speak to the W-Power team, she alluded to the second-hand ice cream equipment she'd got, and I was asking her about the setup costs, because it is very expensive to set up an ice cream business. It's capital intensive. So I bought a second-hand ice cream machine on eBay and had great difficulty getting it transported up from the middle of England, because they're such big machines. But, you know, when you're an entrepreneur, you just do these things. You manage it somehow, and we did. I bought this ice cream trike. I got branding done through contacts I had in Edinburgh, and I was selling initially through restaurants. Then I started selling the small tubs through the local delicatessen and another outlet. And then eventually I decided that I have to sell this direct. This is the way to sell ice cream to make the most money. You want to cut out the middleman. And that's when I took advantage of the location of my house that I've already mentioned. So, so the business developed. This was the front reception of the house, which I converted into the little ice cream parlour. I took the trike. People would contract me to go and serve ice cream for their wedding and special event. But still, it was really just me doing it, because I wasn't turning over enough to be able to afford to employ somebody. But also, critically, ice cream is a really weather-dependent business. People still eat ice cream when it's raining, but they won't go very far to get it, and I'll come back to that in a moment. I tried to develop the business further, so I went and trained as a barista, and I introduced a coffee offer into the business in the parlour in what had been the B&B reception and so on. We got ourselves on this thing called the Ice Cream Trail that the Scottish Government was promoting at the time. So we marketed ourselves as we weren't the most northerly, because you can see on the East Coast there was one that was slightly further north. We were the most northwesterly ice cream outlet on mainland Scotland that was featured on the map. And that was really good too, actually, because people kind of use a map to collect again, and they came and they said, oh, we've been to you and we've been to all these others, and ticked it all off. So that was quite a useful marketing exercise. And then on sunny days, we had the trike set up outside the house, and there would be rowing events and other special events, and lots of people would come. However, as I was saying, not every day in Scotland in the summer is a sunny day. In fact, most of them aren't sunny days, quite often. And I think this photo was taken in July 2016. That's what the summer looks like, an Ullapool on the front. And so what I found was that, as I've said, people would not walk very far. In a day like that, would you walk a long way to buy an ice cream, however good it was? No. So I had some very depressing summer days where I was sort of cleaning my B&B rooms and waiting for customers to come, and nobody came. And I really needed to move my business. It was growing, but it wasn't growing as fast as it could, and it needed to move location. And this is where we came to the sort of physical, geographical constraints of such a small village, that there are very limited retail outlets, premises that I could go into, and I simply couldn't find anywhere I could move this business into, or certainly nowhere that I had the courage to take the step up to go into. There were one or two really big places, but I was a very small business, and at that stage, particularly given that I didn't really feel I had any support from business agencies, the idea of borrowing money and growing my business, taking a big step, was too scary, basically. There was one premise which looked ideal, but it was owned by some other people. It was the post office. The post office was being moved somewhere else, so they were looking for a business to put in their premises. So one day I just had this brainwave. I thought, well, I'll sell them my business. You know, this will be my exit strategy, because it's really important to have an exit strategy for your business. So I spoke to Margaret, who's there, who is now the owner of Gelato Olapool. None of this existed that day. I mean, I just went and had a chat with her in her kitchen, and I made a proactive approach to her to see if she would be interested in buying this business. Because what was really important to me was that the business continued. You know, it was my baby, but I also did it for the village, and I wanted to see the business. When you have a baby, you want to see that business grow and succeed. Maybe I wasn't the right person to take it to the next step. And that's what I concluded. And they were really keen because they could see the potential for the business. So this used to be the post office, but they invested a lot of money and even more expensive equipment. And they've diversified the offer a lot, actually. If you go onto the Facebook page now for Gelato Olapool, you'll see that they're doing things I wouldn't have done, but then that's about what happens when you sell your business. They've really diversified into lots of they do coffee too, but they do sandwiches and salads and chocolate, handmade chocolate. My personal view is they spread themselves too thin, but it's what they want to do, and they're making a success of the business in their own way. So that was last summer outside Gelato Olapool. That's the picture of Margaret and Stephen's Facebook page. So, you know, all credit to them for continuing growing the business the way that they want to. And I guess for me, there's, you know, all the valuable learning that I got out of the process. I should say that in the end, for other reasons, we needed to sell Point Cottage. I now live somewhere else in Olapool. So that's why the other business ended. But this has freed me up to learn more through a project like W Power, and who knows what I'll do in the future. So I would say, we've been looking at the literature of around characteristics of female entrepreneurs and talking about that a lot. I think I was a fairly typical female entrepreneur operating in a remote rural area. I was working part-time on my business for a lot of the time, although towards the end it became full-time. I didn't take any outside investment. Basically, I used my redundancy money from my previous job to invest in this business, and then got some of it, but not all of it, back out when I sold the business. It was home-based. I had all these other commitments with my family and so on, which were, you know, a really important priority for me. There were the challenges of the rural north. It's a very seasonal business, so I didn't really mention as I went through, but we really only operated in the summer, and then there would be a peak at Christmas as well. And the other times, it was about doing your accounts and all the paperwork and so on. How to pay the mortgage. You know, in the early startup stage, I think this is a real elephant in the room for lots of businesses. I mean, my solution on one level was two businesses. I was running a bed and breakfast, which was making money, but most of that money I ploughed into developing my second business, and it was my husband at the time who was earning the business that paid the bills for the family, and without that, it's arguable whether the businesses would have been able to start at all. And I've been very interested about some of the things I've heard about the social security offer available for new entrepreneurs here in Finland, which we don't have anything like that in Scotland. And so finally, my question, would I start another business, is, well, the answer is yes, but I would very much try to learn from what I've done before. And I was working 18-hour days for 6 months on the end. I don't want another business like that. So thank you very much.
Wow, that was delicious. And because we all are hungry, so I think we will spare the questions for the lunch break. So Kathy will be there answering your questions. From my behalf, thank you so much for such a wonderful presentations and active discussion, and a special thanks once more the Lapland team for organizing this. This has been a splendid 3 days in Lapland, and seen so many success stories of entrepreneurship, and learned so much. So thank you on my behalf, and I will let Outi to give the instructions for the lunch.
Yes, thank you also from our project side. It has been a pleasure to meet you all here, and also have a really inspiring discussion with our partners during the last few days, and also listening to your stories, and I can totally see that we have to make collaboration together between these projects, or we might steal some of your partners. But yes, we don't want to keep you any further. We are a little bit late behind the schedule, but not too much. There's this lunch in a Petronella restaurant, which is just go straight ahead over there, and it's at own cost. It's was it €8 more or less. So there's a buffet, and please go and enjoy the lunch. It's usually pretty nice here, and if you have any questions, please contact us or the other entrepreneurs here and partners. It was a pleasure. Thank you. I think that I will take all the presentation and we will distribute them between our projects, and you will get them later on.